Good morning, and we are live. Welcome to another edition of our speaker series, Voices of Impact, brought to you by BeSpoken Collective. Voices of Impact is a dynamic speaker series that amplifies the stories, insights, and experiences of top notch leaders who are driving meaningful change in their industries and their communities. Each session highlights authentic voices making an impact through leadership, inclusion, innovation, and purpose. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome as our speaker today, Yvette Raposo. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll make time for questions at the end of the session. With that, I will hand things over to Yvette.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for this platform and this very important space to speak about different issues that a lot of us are facing. And with my background in boxing, I will say a lot of the times what we are facing and the challenges that we are facing are actually ourselves, our toughest opponent, as we say in boxing, can a lot of times be ourselves. So, in today's session, I want to help everyone listening here. Thank you for tuning in or listening on the recording. I want to help you find your fighter within during this time right now that we're living through that feels very challenging and that is changing very fast. So, buckle in. Let's get ready to discuss. With my background in ring announcing, I like to add in my ring announcing voice, just to gather attention. And I think, just like I say in boxing, boxing is a very serious sport, and there's a lot of serious vibes happening right now that we're living through. And within the seriousness, I like to be pragmatic sometimes and almost sometimes even a little bit silly within the serious. So I welcome all questions here on this platform as I go through my little monologue here and talking about what Find Your Fighter can mean for you right now. So as a professional speaker myself, so I have a very extensive background in boxing as a competitor. First, I competed in the early 2000s, and then there was not a lot of opportunity for us women at that time. And I realized that my option was I could turn professional, which I did, except I didn't have my first professional fight because I quickly realized that I would have to pay to play or pay my own way to have any competition. So I'd have to go to get the competition that I required, that I needed. I would have to go across the pond, let's say to the UK or the US. And I decided right now at this age, I was 26 at the time when I decided to retire from my amateur career and hang up the gloves before my pro career could even start, and decided that I wanted to share these insights, share these mindset lessons, this wisdom, this philosophy from boxing, from the sweet science with the masses, with my clients, with people who wanted to find their fighter within in a world that feels like every day is a fight. So, in my over 25 years now teaching boxing for confidence, for empowerment, and for fitness, I have learned and realized something in conversation as I'm helping people navigate their health journey, whether it was their physical assets that they were trying to build. And of course, I can't approach the physical without addressing the emotional, the mental. And so, over the years, as a trainer, as a boxing coach and trainer, I quickly realized that I needed to address the mindset and the emotional state in order to complement how we were trying to change the body. So as I'm teaching boxing, I teach technique, I teach, the tactics of how to fight, but from a fitness perspective, I was learning and I was observing something over the years that everyone is fighting something. They're either fighting for the life that they want to be living, or they're fighting against something. So, fighting against the life that they don't want to be living. And like I said, a lot of times just fighting themselves without even realizing it. So, a lot of the times I've realized, I've seen that, myself included, I needed to learn how to get out of my own way. Because when we're fighting ourselves, we waste a lot of energy when we can be using that energy. We want to be using that energy for something more useful, let's say. So in boxing, we we have a term called picking your punches. So we learn how to pick our punches in boxing because we don't want to waste energy. We have a finite amount of energy to get us through the competition, through the fight. So if you're scheduled for, let's say, a 10-round fight, for example, in the gym is where you're going to prepare for 10 or more rounds. So we almost over prepare a little bit just so we can make sure we can actually go the distance, train to go the distance without overtraining. And this applies to life as well. We need to learn how to manage our energy in an environment sometimes that can feel very stressful. The unknown and the unpredictable is stressful. And how we respond to that is how we're going to is shown in how we're going to decide to manage our own energy. So I have 3 points that I want to start off with here. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I love to riff off of what's going through your mind as I'm speaking as well. So in all of the talks that I'm doing, I'm being hired, let's say in the last year and a half, I'm writing down, I'm taking notes on the common themes that I'm being hired to speak on within organizations. A lot of the organizations I'm being hired for are mostly for all staff conferences. A lot of the times it's to help to motivate people in the room, not only to be their best and how to get out of their own way, but also how to work together in a very meaningful, powerful, and effective way as well. So as I'm being hired for these through different industries and sectors, I'm having a lot of conversations with leaders who are hoping to get the most out of their team members while also helping them thrive in their own best way so that they could be living the lives that they want to be living. So I'm going to riff off the themes that I'm hearing that need to be talked about, and then I'm going to riff off 3 points that you could take away from this conversation today so that you can immediately find your fighter within, think like a fighter, and live as a champion every single day. So here's the themes that I'm hearing about. Now, whether like organizations are hiring me to speak on this using boxing analogies to help organizations think like a fighter so they can operate, live, and perform like champions. But I'm noticing that the themes are pretty consistent across the board. So number 1, resilience. How can we talk about resilience? How can we teach resilience in a way where people can perform at work, but also thrive in their own private lives as well after work? And my quick point to that I'm going to talk about is in boxing, we have what's called training camp. And it's in training camp where we understand that there's processes. There's a process in how we get stronger and how we build confidence and how we build competence through repetition. And resilience is built by working through things, not avoiding them, not trying to work around them, but working through them and understanding that that is a process. Another topic I'm facing lately is dealing with change. Change is upon us, change is constant, change is dynamic, it is happening whether we like it or not. And a lot of the times, it's not the change itself that is freaking people out, it's how they feel about that change. And of course, the anxiety and the stress around change is very, very real. I would never want to minimize all the changes that people are going through right now and how they feel about that right now. I will say that, in my opinion, from my experience and from my knowledge from training in the boxing gym and preparing for competition, the best way to deal with change is to face it. The best way to deal with my challenger is to face them. And the best way to do that without feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed, or intimidated by my change or by the challenge is to do the only thing that I know how to do, and that's control how I can build myself up and how I can respond to change. And that's a choice. That's a lens, that's a perspective that we can see through. Okay, how can I build myself up around this challenge that I'm facing, regardless of my external circumstances? How can I rely on myself? That's a whole other conversation. Dealing with change, being adaptable, burnout, not necessarily just how to avoid burnout, that is the ideal situation, of course, but also how to, I think, acknowledge and recognize what burnout is for the individual. I personally have burnt out twice severely in my career, in my lifetime, plus little burnouts along the way. You think I would have learned from the first burnout? And I started to dig deep into how could I have seen the signs earlier to prevent such a severe burnout? And I think it's important for us to understand how that shows up for ourselves individually. The importance of ongoing learning is another topic that organizations are hiring me for. It's, as an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life, actually. It's something that I naturally embody and accept, that I have to continue to learn. I have to continue to innovate if I want to stay relevant. And I imagine that might be more challenging when you're in a position or in a job where you've been able to rely on a certain skill set for years upon years, and then suddenly things are changing. Technology, AI, how we work, virtual, hybrid, in office. And I think the importance of ongoing learning that organizations want to emphasize with their employees is really to benefit the employee themselves, so things don't feel so stressful when they don't feel like they're up to date. So being open to ongoing learning, whether or not that there are sessions or conferences being offered within the organization, or how you can take initiative outside of the organization to maintain your skill set and upgrade. Being coachable, this is something that we talk about in boxing in the corner. So when I sit in between rounds, I have 1 minute in between rounds of a boxing match to rest and reassess my game plan in real time, based on what's happening in real time. My coach comes into the corner to provide me with advice, to help me, to give me information or tidbits of information to help me adapt to what's actually happening in real time. But I can't be successful in the next round with the advice that he's giving if I don't take that advice, if I'm not open, if I'm not coachable. Now, this is an automatic relationship in the corner in between rounds of a boxing match, where I openly receive feedback from my coach, who I have built trust with over time. The trust was not found in that 1 minute in between rounds. It was built over time, in the gym, hours in the car, on our drive to training, to tournaments, waiting for my turn to hit the pads with my coach, hours and hours and hours spent together outside of that 1 minute in between rounds. And I relate this to being back in the office, working in person, having the opportunity to work in person. And in the corner between rounds is kind of like the water cooler at work, where you can have those moments, those conversations, those touch points in passing that actually build over time into what we call trust, I do believe. Okay, something else that's showing up that I'm being hired to speak about as I bring boxing analogies into the boardroom to help people work better within their teams, is the importance of everyone's role, and how everyone's role within the organization or on the team contributes to the whole greater good, or contributes to shared success. In boxing, we look alone inside of the ring, but we are very aware that it took a whole team of people to prepare us to perform at high levels inside the ring. So I actually belong to a team. And it's those people that are unseen that sometimes have the greatest impact, a lot of times have the greatest impact in how they show up and how they support over time on my performance. So working better within teams and understanding that everyone's role is important in the greater, bigger picture. The other topic, there's a couple of more I'll bring to light here. Another common topic that I'm being asked to address is across generations, how we can communicate across generations, multi-generational workforce, where we have different styles of working from those who've been in the industry or in the workforce for decades and those who are just entering into the workforce, and how their approach to work might feel or look differently. And my solution to this stems from my experience teaching boxing. I teach a boxing mindset and movement class at the University of Toronto, and I'm heading into my 4th year now. And it was there when I have a lot that I can learn from the generations below me or after me. And this was a beautiful realization because it meant that I can just let go of all of my own expectations or judgments around what this generation has to offer and be open to learn from them and understand the world that they are living in. I have 3 nephews in that age group between the ages of 18 and 22, and I'm very sensitive to the world that they are living through at their age right now and how it's different from when I was their age, very different. And okay, so those are kind of the themes or the topics that I'm being hired to speak on. Now, leadership is, I spoke with Andrew in our last podcast about leadership lessons from the boxing ring, and a lot of that had to do with also how we can lead ourselves. And when I deliver a keynote speech, when I talk about boxing analogies in the boardroom and performance and motivation and leadership skills, I can't talk about any of this without talking about fitness in general. I have a saying that I'm hearing myself consistently say: fitness wins fights. Like, that does not mean that you need to have 6-pack abs or be the buffest in the room. That is not what I'm talking about. In my 28 years being a personal trainer and helping people with their fitness, the conversation always has to come back to their core strength. And I'm not talking again about 6-pack abs. I'm talking about overall fitness to get them through, to carry them through the fight. If it's true that every day is a fight and we're either fighting for something or against something, then we absolutely need to be fit to fight and get through. So the point of that is just being aware of how we can take that initiative or the accountability for our own personal health and fitness, and how we can maximize at wherever you are at, even just a little bit more is going to help you feel just a little bit better. I say this often, where, people think they want 6-pack abs, people think they want buffed arms like Linda Hamilton or Arnold Schwarzenegger, but actually what a lot of people want is just to feel a little bit better than they do right now. They want to elevate their baseline just a little bit more than it is right now and have a little bit more energy, a little bit more clarity and focus. And once we get a little bit more, then we want a little bit more after that. And that's how we raise our baseline. So I'm going to take one more minute here and talk about the 3 points, the 3 takeaways that I've come up with that I hear myself talking about often. And I mentioned a little bit of them already throughout this talk, but I'm going to lay it out for you here. Number 1, first, it's touching gloves, ding, 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 touching gloves with our opponents. is acknowledging the fight is about to go down. This is about to happen. There's an exchange that's about to happen, and I'm honoring everything that it took for my opponent to be there to prepare for me to be my best. Because the point is, both of us want to win, of course, but both of us are also well aware that it was the process that got us here to step through those ropes that elevated and improved our skill set, who we are, what we have to offer, and how we can perform and execute. So, touching gloves is the gesture in life for you right now. How can you touch gloves with yourself and say, I acknowledge and accept that life is a fight? How am I going to find my fighter within? How am I going to develop myself to win this fight, whatever that means for you? And it's accepting that challenges exist. Number one, acceptance. Number two, entering into training camp. What is training camp? It's that time and place where fighters dedicate to preparing for competition, preparing for performance. Training camp is a time and a place where we focus on the tasks that at hand, whether it's the time we spend in the gym, it's our nutrition, it's who we choose to be around us during this time that we have to focus, and removing distractions. Training camp. What are you doing in your training camp? For you, it could be the habits, the rituals, the behaviors that you want to improve or change on an everyday basis, and how those build up and add up to fight night. Number three is fight night. It's performance, how you're performing, how you're showing up to perform, feeling ready and prepared. When I step through the ropes, entering into my fight that I've prepared for, I say to myself, Yvette, trust your training. We train hard in boxing so that we can fight easy. How can you make your life easier by maintaining training camp consistently and intentionally? Okay, so of course I have more to say, but I can stop there for now to see if there's any questions that pop in.
I enjoyed your talk. I don't see any questions. There's been quite a few that have dropped in and out. So, but I do have a couple of questions for you. You mentioned that you were talking about um, across generations, there's different styles of the best way to deal with change and to face it. Are you in your circles experiencing or seeing this, that leaders are struggling to deal with change and how to face it?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody across generations,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the nature of the world right now. It's the nature of the pace of things right now. We are all feeling the challenge of how to keep up with the pace of change 100%. It's not just leaders. I think it's across all generations as a whole, as a humanity. We are trying to figure this pace out.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that caught my attention is when you were talking about your at the end, and the first thing you talked about is touching gloves, honoring my opponent so that they to show that they did everything that they could to be their best on that day. And for me, I want to see what your thoughts are. That is a good example of rapport building in the business and in the industry, of acknowledging that everyone is there to do their best on that particular day, or that they're giving their best on a regular basis. I wanted to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, good question, by the way. So there's a couple of things happening here. Rapport is so important, I think more important than ever. And that speaks to the point about going. I know there is some resistance to going back to the office. There's been some requirements and mandates to go back to the office across different industries and sectors. And I also appreciate the challenges of going back into the office because people have changed their lives to accommodate working from home. So the rapport building piece, I do believe one of the benefits of being in person is that ability to build rapport again, socialize ourselves again in person, which is just, we are fortunate to have access to virtual. It's great that we have that option, but I still don't think it's quite as effective as being in person. And everybody's different. There are some people are introverts and there are people who are extroverts, and there's definitely different personality types. So, but we did this at one point. We used to do this. And I think we're even more informed. And I think a lot of people actually appreciate without even realizing that they missed being in person. Because you see, I mean, I attend a lot of networking events, lots of people busy, full, people are chatting, people are just absorbing each other's energy. It's quite beautiful, actually. And the other point you made, what was it? What was the second point you made?
Well, just the fact that you were, that it's a way of showing that you are, that not, I wouldn't use the word respect, but you show, um
Oh,
it's a
yes,
way
that's
to
right.
show your employees that
Yeah, that's right.
they're, that
Okay.
you understand that they work hard and they're there to do their job.
Yes, thank you. That was the point. So when we talk about being our best and performing at our best, this is such an interesting term because I was thinking about this recently, actually, Andrew. I'm glad you brought this up. Because we don't always wake up at our best.
No.
And we can't always perform at our best
Mm-hmm.
every day. There's a lot of people going through a lot of stuff. So yes, it's acknowledging and just trying to be sensitive that there is a lot of people going through a lot of stuff right now. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of challenges. We still have a job to do. So how do we continue to show up, trying to do our best, knowing that today's not our best day? And what I'll say to this is, when I bring it back to boxing, there were a lot of times when I woke up and I had to train 5 days a week for hours at a time. And, and I will say it, being a woman, there were times in the month where a lot worse than others. There's an actual physiological, biological cycle happening for women. And when it comes to athletics, the gym doesn't discern or judge whatever's going on with your body. The gym stays there the same and expects the same from you. And sometimes it was those mornings or those days that I absolutely dreaded and did not want to go to the gym that I had my best workouts. And it actually became a saying. It's a thing. It's a known concept in the gym. It's like those workouts that you don't want to do sometimes end up being the best ones. Now, I'm not encouraging people to push through pain or discomfort or actual exhaustion. That's not what I'm saying. But just being open to, sometimes we don't even know what we need. And even though we don't feel like getting out of bed, it sometimes was the best decision to have that accountability and someone's waiting for you. And then it ends up being a better experience than you imagined.
So as we wrap here, Bear, I just wanted to take the time to thank you for coming on today. We met way back. You came on as a guest on my podcast. You are a remarkable human, Yvette, and I'm just so thrilled that you took the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. If you're listening at a later time or watching a replay of this, how would people reach out to you, Yvette, and how would they, if they want to chat with you, if they want to meet with you, how would they do that?
Actually, directly on LinkedIn. A message on LinkedIn is perfect.
Wonderful. Well, I encourage you all to reach out to Yvette and have a conversation with her. I've enjoyed every conversation that I've had with her, and I look forward to further conversation with her and working with her further. So again, thank you so much, Yvette. On behalf of myself and our speaker today, Yvette, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you'll join us next time as we're joined by our very special speaker, Shauna Van Muren. So join us for that. And until next time, be safe. And remember, everyone, when we lead with heart, we lead with impact.